Hey guys, what is going on? It is the eve of the 3M Open, so we're going to do a quick kind of breakdown update before we kick things off tomorrow morning, things tee off. I wanted to share my betting card, the guys that I'm landing on for the week. I wanted to talk a little bit about Draftkings ownership and strategy and some of the different things that I'm doing with my lineup build this week. So I'm going to be max entering the small dollar tournament on DraftKings. So what are some different rules that I'm overlaying to make sure that I'm getting unique and not relying on too many things with respect to the stars aligning, just kind of maximizing the likelihood of some certain things coming together. So we'll talk about that in a second as well. So maybe to kick things off, take a look at the betting card for the week. So I'm basically anchoring on this mid-range and then taking a couple flyers down the board. So I bet Maverick McNeely and Hank Lebioda at 50-1. I'm not going to be the guy that misses out on this because these guys are rating out extremely well in my model. They're going to be popular on DraftKings. Same story with Patton Kizzire and Doug Gim. I got them at 65. So because I'm getting exposure to these guys through the betting market, I'm going to be setting up some things uniquely with my lineups to make sure that I'm not overexposed to these guys, because odds are one of them is going to miss the cut, right? Like that's just usually how this stuff works. The guys that rate out super well, it's still golf, it's still random. I want to make sure that I'm not getting wiped out this week with respect to some of these guys. Then I'm grabbing Johnny Vegas. I found a 70-1 number on him. Obviously, he rated out super well in my model. I know a lot of people are on him as well. I'm happy with the 70 that I found, so we're going to take a small stab at him. This guy, Gary Woodland, is probably going to make or break my week. So if we jump over to the model, Gary Woodland is 11th in opportunities gained, 15th in birdie or better, and obviously does really well on par fives. It's a function of his distance. He's obviously a proven winner. He's also going to be super low owned this week in fantasy, so he's a guy that I definitely wanted to make sure I have a piece of, and I'm happy being overweight on him. Again, if he plays well, it's not going to kill me, but it's something that, again, I want to be a little bit different and lean into the model, and he's a guy that's rating out pretty well for me. So I took an outright bet on him, and going to show you in a second, but doing some different things with my lineups around Gary Woodland. The next guy that I grabbed, Patrick Rogers. He's a bomber. He's been playing really well. He's been in good form. What you'll notice, or at least a lot of these guys, several of these guys anyway, they're good bent grass putters. They're in good form. They either have some distance or they can stick it close with their long irons if they don't. So Patrick Rogers falls into the bomb it, hopefully hit it close enough that he can make some putts. And again, like you said, he's coming in good form. He's played well the past couple of weeks. Same is true for Adam Schenk. So hopefully we're on an uptrend and not a downtrend with him. But he's a guy that obviously contended at the John Deere, rates out really well in the model. Hopefully if he's in the mix on Sunday, he doesn't blow up again. But he's a guy that, again, I think can win. So let's see what happens again with Adam Schenk. And the rest of these guys are just some small stabs, some bombs down the board. Bo Hoag's rating out really well. Pat Perez is rating out really well. Joseph Bramlett, Will Gordon, Wes Roach. So idea is that I'll have about 4 units in play or so for the week. If any of these guys hit, I should end up with somewhere around 25, 27 units or so in terms of total profit. So that's how I set up my betting card for the week. So then if we jump over to the DraftKings side of things, let's take a look at ownership first. So it does look like of the guys at the top over 10K that Finau and Reed are going to be the most popular. DJ, maybe a little lower. I could see that. I'm not sure I'm totally sold on the 15%, but Louis definitely going to be the pivot. His ownership has trended up, though, throughout the week, so maybe people are jumping on that train now. I know he's talked about trying to get some FedEx Cup points, so that's why he's here. I'm still not buying on Louis this week. I may end up regretting it, but for me, who I'm anchoring on at the top are really Finau and Reed. Again, DJ and Louis both rated out better in the model, but this is, to me, I think, a way to, not necessarily get different, but I like Finau and Reed's chances a little bit more than I do Louis. And DJ, the price, you kind of need him to win, or at least finish like top 3 with a low-owned winner to really regret not playing him. So yeah, I'm just going to roll the dice on that. DJ can obviously turn it on a dime. He obviously is coming in good form off the Open Championship, but before that, he wasn't really good. So, I mean, he's one of the best players in the world. I have to watch how I describe that. He's obviously really good, but maybe not the best form. So then in the 9K range, I'm really anchoring on Wolf and Cam Davis with a little bit of Bubba. So I like the idea of kind of anchoring on a core at the top. You guys may want to play some different guys, right? So don't feel like again, we'll talk about how I'm setting up some rules and logic in my DraftKings lineups. If you like some of these other guys, right, you can do some similar strategies, but with different kind of core plays at the top. So just something to think about. Don't feel like you have to follow this blindly. If you like Tringali and Griot, you can do some similar things that we'll talk about in a second. For me, it looks like the clear pivots here in the upper eights are going to be Bobby McIntyre and Ricky Fowler. And then outside of that, Lucas Herbert, Dylan Fratelli, Gary Woodland we talked about. He's a guy that I'm going to be definitely overexposed on that 6% projected ownership. And in terms of how I'm setting things up, I'm just kind of sprinkling in Keegan, Stewart Cink. Not really super excited about Ricky, but he was rating out okay in the model. I could see it, but I'm not going to personally be doing it. I am going to be more exposed to Patton Kizzire and Maverick McNeely, but I'll show you in a second. I'm not going to build lineups with every single popular guy in them, right? That's not a good way to try and get to the top of the leaderboard. Even in the upper sevens, Hank Lebioda might be the highest owned guy in the slate, and that should scare the heck out of everybody. Doug Gim as well. So I want to get exposure to some of these guys, but I've also already bet them. So I don't want to be in a spot where I'm too overexposed to them. So again, I'll show you this to you in a second. I'm building some rules in my lineups to make sure that that doesn't happen, and I get a good mix of, a guy like Stewart Cink who is rating out really well in the model, right? I don't want to build lineups with Kizzire, McNeely, Lebioda, and Gim, because that's way too much super volatile, popular plays in one lineup. So anyway, where I'm getting a little weird, though, is then in the 7K range, and basically anyone outside of Johnny Vegas is probably fine. So again, Vegas kind of falls into that same camp with those other guys. I like him a lot. I obviously bet him, but I'm going to probably just match the field on him and even Lebioda and Gim. And I'd rather make sure that I have at least one of these kind of leverage guys. And again, really anyone you like in the 7K range outside of Vegas, Lebioda and Gim is probably a leverage play. So for me, the guys that I'm looking at, Lonto Griffin, Patrick Rogers, Mito Pereira, Adam Schenk, Ches Reavie, Kyle Stanley, Joel Damon, Scott Stallings, Cam Champ, Pat Perez, Bo Hoax. It sounds like a lot of names. I have about 28 guys in my player pool. I'm just trying to grab different combinations of these 7K guys. And again, not all of the popular combinations. And then in the 6K range, I have Bramlett, Gordon, Wes Roach, the guys that I bet on. So when I jump over to my lineup builder for the week, one thing that I'm doing, again, as always, I'm leaving salary on the table. I'm making sure that all of my lineups have at least 2 unique guys. So basically every lineup is a 2v2 pivot, at least. And in terms of restrictions, doing exactly what I talked about, right? So I'm making sure that my lineups don't have too many of the super cheap, crazy guys that are really low owned. You really don't need to be doing that. The other thing that I'm doing is making sure that my lineups only use at most 2 of the really popular 7K guys. I'm also doing something, I haven't really done this before, but I have a hypothesis, so we're going to test it. So I'm building lineups to make sure that I don't have too many of the crappy putters. So it's unlikely that all of them catch a hot putter for the week, right? It's far more likely that they continue to perform at or below their baselines. So I want to make sure that each of my lineups only have, 3, maybe even 2 of the crappy putters in them, because it's unlikely that they will all catch fire. And if I have 4 guys that can't putt and I'm betting on all of them overperforming in that category, that doesn't seem like a high expected value approach. As a subset of that, these guys that are all kind of the same to me, like Kyle Stanley, Ches Reavie, Joel Damon, I only want one of them because, again, Joel Damon's a little bit more of a putter, but I don't see all of these like plotter types really coming together to perform really well all at the same time. I'm sure now Kyle Stanley and Ches Reavie will finish 1-2 on the leaderboard, but that's a bet that I'm willing to make. And then in terms of my core, again, I'm just going with Finau, Reed, Wolf, Cam Davis, the top of every lineup. I'm also, I have 2 sets of players that I'm calling my leverage core. So I want to make sure that every single lineup has at least one of these leverage guys in it. So guys that are not your Doug Gims, Hank Lebiotas, Johnny Vegas, I want to make sure every single lineup has at least one of those other kind of mid-range pivot plays in them. So that's what's really going on down here. And then in terms of exposure, I don't know that we talked about this in depth before, but if the field is projected to have about 15% of these guys, whatever it might be, 10, 15, 20%, do I want to have more than that, less than that, about the same, or none? So if you're in my player pool, I'm going to have some exposure, but I'm really going to go overweight on guys like Finau, Reed, Wolf, and Davis, my core plays. I'm going to be at the field on Bubba, Keegan, a little bit over on Stewart Cink, over on Kazire, over on McNeely. But guys like Hank Lebioda, Doug Gim, they're projected to be incredibly highly owned. I'm just matching the field. These are guys that I bet too. So again, if they win, then my upside's coming from the betting side. And I'll have a shot, right, with about 30, 40 or so lineups to go to the top of the board. If they fail and miss the cut, then I have 120 lineups that don't have these guys in them, right? And I have a better shot of passing the 20, 30% of the field that's going to end up using these guys. So just a natural way to hedge a little bit. I'm not going to go way overweight on the likes of Hank Lebioda because, again, this is golf. He's a great statistical play, but he could forget how to putt for a week and miss the cut, right? Doug Gim never learned how to putt, right? So he could hit it to 6 feet every time and miss every single one. So this is my strategy. Again, just making sure that I have about even exposure to everybody else here. You'll see I'm taking some flyers on like Joel Damon, Kyle Stanley, Scott Stallings. I don't need to be crazy overweight the field on these guys. Same is true for like Will Gordon, Wes Roach. I don't need to be 50% exposed to these guys to get some differentiation, have a path to a good week if they perform well. Because for me, if my core plays well and I have the right mix of some of these other guys, then I should be at, hopefully, or near the top of the leaderboard. So that's how I'm setting things up for the week. Good luck if you are tailing any of this. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, like with some of these rules, you don't need an optimizer and you don't need to be anchoring on the same core plays as me. If you really like Griot and Cam Tringali, you can do the same sorts of setup with some of the lower owned guys, right? Or the higher owned guys, right? Making sure you're not being too exposed to them. If you're building by hand, you can incorporate the same sort of logic behind all of this. So again, I think it's a good kind of process way of looking at things and just kind of thinking about what do I need to believe in terms of my path to success for this week. So like as an example, do I really want to bet that Keegan and Ches and Kyle Stanley all spike putting weeks? It's probably not going to happen, right? So just be cognizant of those sorts of things when you're building anything in an optimizer or building it by hand, right? Do I really want to be in a spot where if Hank Lebioda misses the cut, that all of my lineups and my betting card are tanked? No, right? So just philosophically, just some things that I think you can anchor on and carry through into your approach. So again, hopefully you learned something. Good luck if you're tailing any of this. As always, subscribe to my channel, like the video. Best of luck at the 3M Open. Hopefully my historical success at this event will carry through for one more year. So thanks a lot, guys. We'll probably do an update video as always over the weekend, and we will talk soon. Thanks, guys.